that Eleanor and I went down.
Oh, let's save the talk. Can't we agree that capitalism is an economic system, a system for the production and distribution of things we need and want?
Over the last 30 years, in the USA alone, the top 1% has grown $21 trillion richer, while the bottom 50% have grown $900 billion poorer, a pattern of widening inequality that has largely repeated itself across the world.
A successful business must have enough sales dollars coming in to enable management to pay the expenses of doing business, such as...
I don't have a problem with capitalism as a concept. I think British capitalism, which is what we're seeing right now, and the strain that we have, the focus that we have on paying out dividends to shareholders and hoping that somehow this kind of trickles down and feeds people at the bottom, that's a system that is demonstrably not working right now.
Any money that's left over is known as profit. Wise management plows part of it back into the business.
And this is why people don't like capitalism, okay? Because capitalism is too often stands accused of sucking out the best energies of workers and consumers in the name of things which do not deliver on the ultimate promise, which is what we might, in ordinary language, call customer satisfaction, and in fancy philosophical language, call eudaimonia. It does not deliver on this. Now, if you think back to Abraham Maslow's famous pyramid of needs, I know it's been mentioned a few times, but most of the economy is down at the bottom of that pyramid, right? Most of the way in which fortunes are built up is through trading, through buying and selling, things which are at the bottom of that pyramid. I mean, Apple does wonderful things in the world of communication. It doesn't help you actually to have a proper conversation with another human being. It merely facilitates the act, the promise of conversation. So a lot of what the world's largest companies are doing is still remarkably at the bottom of the pyramid. It's my belief that over the course of this century, we're going to move up that pyramid.
We have some capitalists in the room, and capitalists are always saying things like, how are we going to develop a new phone or a new smart app or a new way of transmitting data? Listen, capitalists, look at the problems in this room. They are problems that are psychological. Samsung makes wonderful phones. When is Samsung going to stop making phones and invent a device that will help marriages to go better? Because it's fantastic. The new Samsung phone is terrific. It helps me to speak to my grandmother and far away and send pictures. But this is useless compared to the true challenges of how to live with another human being.
What a brand promise is often pegged to are all those things, those higher needs that are associated with wisdom, with flourishing, with a good life. But the actual product that is often being sold is very far removed from the actual promises which are being engaged in order to sell you that product. Let me give you a more concrete example. Remember that famous Campari advert of years ago? It really struck me, this is my teenage years. Campari were running a massive campaign in which would show people hugging, holding hands, hanging out with groups of friendly-looking people in beautiful locations. And the tagline was always the same, Campari and friends. And it was a lovely idea. The problem is, and the reason why people hate consumerism, is that you would end up buying a crate of Campari, get it delivered to your flat, sit alone at home, and you wouldn't have any friends, and the purchase of those drinks would not in any way have advanced the cause that was really motivating you when you were buying that, which is the pursuit of friendship.
So think of Facebook. Facebook is now worth, I think, $23 billion. And it's the first company that's really addressing fairly and squarely a need right at the top of Abraham Maslow's pyramid of the need for friendship. Right? So it's a company, now you could fault it, all sorts of things, but it's basically targeting our need for friendship and making many, many $billion every year on the back of that. That is, I think, a very encouraging sign. Because for a long time, Campari and others would simply say, there's the drink and friends, let's stick it together arbitrarily. And then along came Facebook and said, you know what, you could maybe actually just go and have the friends directly. It doesn't matter about the Campari. And I think we're going to see that same move in a lot of areas. He said to me, I run a company called Airbnb. So I perked up a bit. And I said, oh, right, what do you want? What can I do for you? And he said, well, I've read your stuff and I'm interested in flying you over to talk to my conference in San Francisco next week. And anyway, he persuaded me by various inducements. I flew over to San Francisco, met with the guy. He is a fascinating man because he's done a survey of people's satisfaction levels on their holidays. And the answers are world-shaking because basically holidays tend to go wrong. Travels tend to go wrong. Most people, over 70% of journeys don't go as they're supposed to have gone. And the travel industry keeps selling us all these promises of calm, of friendship, of reconnection, of romance, etc. But it doesn't necessarily deliver. And this has become, Brian Chesky of Airbnb's, this has become his obsession. How can we make travel deliver on its implicit promises? And you will see, I can't reveal much more, but I've been working with him on this, you will see in about a year's time, an entirely new business growing out of Airbnb. Airbnb at the moment, as he says himself, is just putting people on a pillow, putting their heads on pillows. It's not particularly complex and it's not theoretically complicated. The next venture that this man makes is going to be to try and unite the highest goals that we have of travel, which at the end of the day is to be happy in a lot of deep ways, to actually make sure that the mechanisms that we use when we go traveling and the destinations we choose are properly wired up to those higher goals. It's a fascinating move, and we're seeing it in many areas.
I recommend that Samsung develops a psychological division that explores the human being and tries to make technology that is not only impressive and beautiful and elegant, but is also useful to the deepest part of the individual. At that moment, the promise of technology will properly have come to fruition. And the promise is this: machines that can properly help us with the challenges of life.